My name is Levi Griffin, and this is my final shower curtain presentation review. The initial thought behind my design process was to create an easily digestible, informational, yet appealing way to teach aspects of world history. As you can see, I have all my charts in a very organized, my maps in a very organized manner, and I did that so you can easily digest and kind of intake all these properties of world history in a very efficient way. My unit planning process of my shower curtain was pretty simple. At first, I focused on the definitions because the definitions are most of the time where the bulk of the work came from. And I got most of my definitions from AMSCO and of course Strayer. And from the definitions, I wanted to move on to other charts and get down whatever research I needed there. And from there, I moved to informations and drawings on the map that I needed. And from there, I went to writing my thesis, researching my thesis and writing my connections. Some helpful information I chose to include personally right here. You can see I actually marked some of the words here with stars. Those actually in particular, they tell me that I'm supposed to include areas in those definitions, and little, significations and reminders like that help me to kind of efficiently get my point across when there are certain directions asked of me for certain definitions. Here on my shower curtain, I have some causes and effects of World War I and World War II. And these kind of talk about, unsustained peace agreements, the need for imperialist or the want for nations to kind of spread their imperialist influence, and as well as unsustained peace agreements, which led to the rise in totalitarian regimes like Nazi Germany and their want to spread their own communism through something like the Cold War and proxy wars. Another cause would also be assassination. You could take Franz Ferdinand as an example for that. Aggressive nationalism and different ideologies were also a major cause of the world wars. An example of comparison on my shower curtain right here would be where in the global tapestry for Unit 1, where we compared and contrasted different major religions like Confucianism, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. These all kind of differed in terms of the amount of deities they worship, like monotheism and polytheism, and different founders in different regions, like Jesus Christ, Siddhartha Gautama, and of course Confucius, and Prophet Muhammad in the Middle East. Here in this comparison, we also talk about the major influences of these religions. And for example, we have Christianity, in which the church held a lot of political power, where a lot of the Christianity was in Europe, like in Rome. And you also have Islam. Nations that adhere to Islam often promoted a lot of policies and laws based on Islamic properties. And a lot of these religions spanned over many different continents, including Africa and Eurasia. And a lot of the times they merged, and a lot of the people adhere to them. In terms of continuities and changes within a certain world period, I used Unit 7, the global conflict. And of course, here between 1900 and the present, you have continuities in international violence, of course, global conflict like the Chinese, Russian, and Mexican Revolution, the 2 world wars, as well as the Holocaust and genocide in Cambodia, Rwanda, and Armenia. But even with widespread violence in the period from 1900 to the present, we also have changes in things like efforts to global peace, because we have things like the League of Nations, which was created in order to promote world peace and to provide a forum for resolving international disputes that would otherwise be resolved in violence. And we also have economic growth, and which kind of included things like FDR's New Deal and the emergence from the Great Depression. And now for my connections. Even though, of course, I make connections for every single unit, I'm just going to show you a few for the purpose of this assignment. Here, for Unit 2, we have a connection that says Unit 2 can be connected to Unit 9, as they both involve the development of technology for the purpose of expanding trade, travel efficiency, and as well as active communication. And like in Unit 2, you have things like the compass and the astrolabe and the camel saddle that kind of aided in international movement, which gave people accesses to different goods, ideas, and philosophies. And in Unit 9, of course, we have the development of cell towers and phones that increased efforts in worldwide communication. Here I have another connection for Unit 9 that states Unit 9 is connectable to Unit 6 in the sense that they both discuss large-scale economic development across international borders. And these developments led to nations becoming wealthy as a result of resources offered. For Unit 9, in terms of economic growth, we have something like the International Monetary Fund. Even though it wasn't always accepted, it did increase the global flow of capital and trade. And in Unit 6, of course, here we have we have a lot of trade going on, like palm oil in West Africa, as well as rubber extraction in the Congo Basin. And these served as kind of resources that these nations and states could use to expand economically across international borders. Right here for Unit 1, the global tapestry, I have another connection that states Unit 1 can be connected to Unit 2 because they both involve the formation of states around the world, which were used to expand commerce and influence. Here in Unit 1, we have the formation of a lot of states, including things like the Chaco, the Cahokia, and Great Zimbabwe and Ethiopia. And here in Unit 2, we have the formation of places like Kashgar and Samarkand, which all served as kind of, economic hubs for, diffusion of ideas, goods, and money, of course, across the international borders. And finally, we have a connection for Unit 3, which states that Unit 3 can be connected to Unit 4 because both units discuss different methods of states/empire expansion. In Unit 3 here, we talk about the Manchus, the Ottomans, the Mughals, and the Safavids, and how they kind of wanted to expand and legitimize their rule through large-scale architecture and paintings. And here in Unit 4, we have empires and states wanting to expand largely through imperial conquest and forming colonies in multiple continents throughout the world, such as Portugal. Like they had colonies in a lot of places like Africa, Southern Africa, and all the way in Oceania. Now, instead of a pieces chart, I actually did a spice tea chart because in the shower curtain packet guide, it actually said to create a spice tea chart, but in the Chromebook, it said to create a pieces chart, and I went off the physical packet, so I hope that's all right. So I'm gonna be explaining my spice tea chart. Within the spice tea chart, we have the Manchus, the Ottomans, the Mughals, and the Safavids. And the major takeaway that I got from recording this chart and researching this chart was the fact that these different states or empires just had different ways of expansion and governing themselves within. And you could take a social example. While some civilizations used a caste system to kind of base how society worked, a lot of other societies used things like paintings, architecture, and large sculptures to legitimize their rule. And from a cultural aspect, you have Islam in like the Safavid Empire, while you have Confucianism in others. And yeah, an example of how I included and used an AP region on my shower curtain would be here in Unit 4 on my map, where I displayed the movement of multiple empires like the Netherlands, France, and Spain to other parts of the world. Unit 4 largely encompasses, imperial expansion. So right here, I drew the Netherlands going on their voyage to claim territory and create colonies in Southeast Asia, including, the East Indies, the West Indies, things like that. And you also have Spain coming to the Americas, coming to expand their colonial rule, as well as France and Britain coming to North America also to expand their rule across the globe. Something special or unique I included in my shower curtain was my use of color coordination. For every single unit, I assigned a certain color for it. As you can see, Unit 3, here I have blue, here I have gold, here I have orange, and For Unit 7, I have a few colors. And for Unit 4, I have purple. And I did this not just to make my shower curtain visually appealing, but I think using colors kind of can help you remember and digest the information easier in your brain. And it can kind of help you sort out certain pieces of AP World History. So thank you for listening.